The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
I need you to knock some sense into me. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I don't know.
I enjoy listening to you. I don't always agree with everything.
All right, enough of this persiflage.
So, you want my question?
I'm certainly not going to get myself in trouble by telling you what to do.
That makes great sense. Gosh, that's good.
Did I overwhelm you with words and wisdom?
I've got 7 kids. I feel like I could call you every day.
Wait, you're telling me I'm wrong? Disconnect.
Yes, I am, Dr. Ray.
You just need to tune in to Dr. Ray, honey. He's got all the answers.
Am I right or am I right?
Probably.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
My wife's a lot quicker than I am. Or either she's just better at telling reality. I'm reading the paper today. I noticed this story about this beautiful actress engaged to this football player. Known for being a jerk. The guy's a real problem. And I said to my wife, I will never understand why some of the biggest jerks get the most beautiful women. My wife smiled at me. She said, Why, thank you, Ray. It's not what I meant. Nice to have you with me here on The Doctor Is In. Hopefully we can talk about some things I do mean if you call the program. 877-573-7825. 877-57 equal. Easy way to remember it. 3 prime reasons why people call. 1, situations or circumstances or people in their lives that they just want to bounce off of me, put our heads together, see what we can come up with. Obviously, we can't do therapy or diagnose, step on another therapist's turf, but we can educate, see if there's some options and weigh them a little bit. That's a big thing. We weigh what our options are. Sometimes you don't have a good or a bad option. You have a bad and a less bad option. That's much of what life sometimes is. Sometimes they'll call in to offer a thought or two for someone else. They will piggyback on a previous call and say, I had that situation. Let me tell you how I solved it, or let me tell you, Dr. Ray, how I think you blew it. Happens. Hate when my children call. And sometimes they just call in because they say, I have an insight about life or some circumstance, or a generic question as the culture relates to the struggle for virtue, the struggle to be a good disciple for our Lord, as the culture misshapes souls. All of these things are fodder as opposed to mutter. Old Abbott and Costello routine. The horse eats his fodder. He's a good mutter. Costello did everything with words, brilliantly so. 877-57 equal. I would love to have you on the program. And you know where else I'd love to have you? But you better hurry, because you only got a few more days. That's in Ann Arbor, Ave Maria Turf, Annunciation Radio Turf, or any turf really, depending on how far you want to drive. We will be taping 4 episodes of Living Right with Dr. Ray. That's the TV show in its 15th season on EWTN. Yeah, I made the mistake of looking back at some of those first years, and I thought, that's my son. My son's doing the show. Who's that dude that's doing this show? If you'd like to be in the audience, because we would certainly love to have you in the audience, you go to AveMariaRadio.net, one big long word, and you sign up. Now, we only have room for 70 people, and 2 of them are already filled out with waiting lists. I don't know what the other 2 are. I haven't heard the latest numbers. Father Joe Krupp, who's one of our guests, and many of you know him, maybe from the Good News Cruise or from the Saginaw area, Grand Blanc. I went to Grand Blanc once. There was nothing there. It's just nothing. It's just a big Grand Blanc. He will be there. He's sold out, and Marcus Peter is sold out, and getting very close to sold out is Dave Vacherez. Many of you know Dave, incredible guest, and Sister John Dominic. We've got a few more seats left, so you can sign up, get on the waiting list. The audience claps, they laugh, they have an integral part of the program. Now, we will be also doing this show in D.C. at the Catholic University of America, and I'll give you some details on that. That's on November 11th and 12th. So we'll give you some heads up on that. Go to the computer, type in child self-esteem, search. Last time I looked, which was at least a couple years ago, tens and tens and tens of millions of options. A reflection that the shrinks, the expert types, the intelligentsia of the human condition put self-esteem as the apex of moral virtues. Although I don't know if they use the word virtue. Well-adjustment. Self-esteem. Although really the research is falling short on relating self-esteem to much of anything, but there were programs pushed hard in the schools that we make you feel wonderful about yourself. We make you feel that there's no one like you. You're just so absolutely special. You're just a tremendous human being. Know that. Now, granted, I'm not saying that kids are not infinitely valuable. First of all, God says so. That's much more self-esteem, solidity, than saying, I say so. But if you type in child humility, search, you'll only see a fraction of the self-esteem options. When's the last time you heard a secular expert talk about how important it is for a child to learn humility? It's just not on their radar. Last time a kid in Little League who was clearly the best kid of the 9-year-olds going up to the coach and saying, hey, coach, hey, let Timmy bat for me. Let Timmy bat for me. He hardly ever gets to play. Put him in for me. What a kid that would be, huh? Do we strive for that? My humility is something that I'm very proud of. That's right. And I have a book coming out in the fall, The 3 Most Humble People I Know, and How I Taught the Other 2. But that's neither here nor there. I had an interesting situation one time. Grandparents called me about their granddaughter, and I don't know how they became aware of these circumstances. Maybe she was staying with them, or somehow it was shared through her parents. This little girl was probably about 9, 3rd, 4th grade. They had the end of the year school Olympics. The kids all had the various games and everything. And of course, nobody can win. That's just not allowed. You can't have a faster runner, higher jumper, stronger thrower. That's just not permitted. We have to ignore reality that everybody has different abilities, and it doesn't mean one whit about their value. But instead of doing that, instead of emphasizing that it doesn't mean one whit about their values, what we do is we say, well, we're all the same. We're all valuable. That's it. You all have the same skill. Why? Because you're all going to get a trophy. You're all going to get a certificate. You're all going to get an award. Like this little girl had some race, and she lost. And not only did she lose, but I think she came in pretty close to last, if not last. She got her award, whatever it was, and she went to her teacher and gave it back, saying, I don't need this. I'm not a very fast runner. I didn't win anything. I don't need this. She gave it back to the teacher. And the teacher said, wow, honey, that's a beautifully mature insight on your part. How can someone your age come to such a solid, mature conclusion? No, the teacher didn't. The teacher worried that something was wrong with the girl. I'm not making this up. The teacher worried about the girl's self-image because she was honest, She was realistic. She said, hey, I can't run very fast. No big deal. That's not any moral sin. I can't run very fast. Those kids are faster than I am. I don't want the award. That's meaningless. Not only is it meaningless to me because I didn't win it, it's meaningless to the kid who won it because we all got one. Well, the grandparents told me that the teacher somehow either talked to the mom or them and was worried about this little girl. Worried about a fragile self-image. That somehow in saying I didn't deserve that because I didn't come close to winning. I wasn't even second. I wasn't even the bronze medal. I was close to dead last. And the little girl's attitude was, that's okay. Now, to me, that is a solid self-image, if you want to look at it that way, because if you strip self-image away from God's declaration that we are infinitely valuable, just simply approach it from a secular perspective. Don't bring God into the picture. A solid self-image says, I have these abilities and I have these liabilities. I have these strengths, I have these deficits. That's what a solid self-image is. It's reality. It isn't, therefore I'm a loser. It has nothing to do with it. But yet what we've done, and I remember when the self-image, I think it's still gone pretty strong, but it was really at its peak in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. You couldn't walk into an elementary school and not see something on the bulletin board with all these kids' names and a flower. I'm a special flower in the garden. There's no other flower like me. There's even some research out that says when you chase self-esteem independently of anything else, independently of accomplishments, independently of virtue, independently of strengths, you know what you create? You create self-focus. You create emphasis on me. I don't know where that little girl is now. That was so many years ago. I hope she still has that kind of insight. I don't deserve this. 877-573-7825. 877-57 equal. That is the number to call. I would love to hear from you. Like now, the lines are ready for your calls. Thank you. It's Dr. Ray.
Dr. Ray has more great advice soon. Don't go anywhere.
In her diary, St. Faustina wrote, "If only I had a spiritual director from the beginning, I would not have wasted so many of God's graces. If even the saints needed spiritual guidance, how much more do we?" The nonprofit Revive app lets you meet virtually with certified spiritual companions, scheduling sessions at your convenience, helping you grow closer to Christ. Your first 2 sessions are free. Download the Revive app today. That's REVIV, and then the number 3.
This program is brought to you by the following nonprofit underwriter.
Are you longing to hear God's voice? Lord, Teach Me to Pray, the free Ignatian prayer series will open your heart to His voice, to the peace you are seeking, and the only love that fulfills the human heart, Jesus. God is calling you to true joy, knowing Jesus personally. Lord, Teach Me to Pray is free. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com, click on the red box, order the Lord Teach Me to Pray series now. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com.
Hello, Steve Ray here from Footprints of God Pilgrimages. The land of our Lord and Our Lady is calling us. We're heading back to the Holy Land over Christmas break this year. We have the best, most reliable guides and services awaiting us. The holy sites are open, and the local Christians are anxious to see us. Galilee, Jerusalem, Nazareth, Bethlehem. No crowds, no lines. Hope you can join us.
Find the Ave Maria Radio travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net. Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically owned shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866 Ave Maria or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Thank you for joining me here. The Doctor is in. I'm Dr. Ray Guarendi. This program is a co-production of the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and Ave Maria Radio Communications. My compadres there in Ann Arbor, Andrew Kruchek, producer man, and Eric Dumont, call screamer man, who's waiting for your calls at 877-573-7825. Advent and Christmas with Mother Angelica. Cultivating a Faithful Heart for Christmas with Mother Angelica. This draws from her real-life experiences as a child from a broken home here in Canton. I know exactly where she grew up and whose mother herself struggled to make ends meet. Mother unveils the true meaning of Christmas, how to cultivate the expectant faith of our Lord, the best gifts you can give to Jesus and others. I'll just give you a clue. It's not a sweater or a tie. And one of my favorites, ways to counter materialism and season's greetings. Season's greetings, yeah. Happy jolly winter solstice. Advent and Christmas with Mother Angelica, cultivating a faithful heart for Christmas with Mother Angelica. Paul's got a good question here from Cocoa, Florida. As a matter of fact, I play trivia. And we're still talking to Paul? Okay, I'll take care of it in a second, but I'll do this little intro. I play trivia, and the various topics are among a number of things. And psychology every once in a while comes up, and they say to me, oh, good, Ray's here, it's psychology. Well, I noticed that in psychology the joke is that I miss them. And part of it is, it's because of Paul's question here from Cocoa, Florida. He says, what is your take on Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Now, this was back in the days that establishing, theorizing, constructing personality theories, something to summarize the human condition, was big. And Maslow was one who had I think it was 10 needs that are part of being human. Down at the bottom, you had the basics. You had air, water, food. And up at the top, you had self-actualization, which was the big one. That's the really well-adjusted person. What do I think about that? Well, I think it's a nice little exercise in pondering the human condition. There may be some instinctive truth to the importance of what we see. Let me hold on a second. I do not remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so let me just chase it here. Andrew, normally he must be busy because normally he'd have it pulled up for me. Hold on. Maslow's, N-A-S-L-O-W. There it is, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Oh, there it is. He's got it up. Okay, let me go down here. So he starts out with the physiological stuff: breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. Then he goes to safety and security. This is all basic, the human gut stuff you need. Then he starts to move toward the social and the individual. He's got the third is love and belonging, friendship, family, intimacy, connection. There it is, self-esteem, right there as it relates to my monologue. Confidence, achievement, respect of others, the need to be a unique individual. And then at the very top of his hierarchy of needs, which is set up like a pyramid, he's got self-actualization, morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance. Now, this question was in trivia, and I missed it. Why? Because they asked what was the middle one. I remember the middle one. I had this back in a personality theory course. I don't want to say how many years ago. I think it was right before, I think I went to school with Freud. So, yes, these are things that are important to humans, certainly. And nobody would argue with physiology and safety. You don't have that, you ain't going to worry about your self-esteem. But as you move upward, these are important things. And the question becomes, what is the instructive purpose? Okay, so I say that self-actualization, which he defines as morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, experience, purpose, meaning, and inner potential. Okay, so I say that. So how's that translate into living life? Well, you need these things. Well, yeah, you do at some level, but how do you cultivate them? See, that's the much more integral question. If somebody can answer much more basically physiology, I do need to breathe. That's a big one. I do need to breathe. And food and water, real important. Sleep, no question. You're going to get it no matter what. Even if you fight it, you're going to fall asleep because that's the way it is. You can fall asleep in any circumstance, no matter how egregious, if you have been deprived for days. So yeah, the bottom ones are real explanatory, but the top ones, yeah, I mean, they're kind of broad terms, and you sort of gotta define what they mean, kind of thing. So, Paul, it's a nice it's a nice conceptualization of human functioning. But any time you use broad umbrella terms, creativity, spontaneity, experience, those things are so broad, they need to be operationally defined, as we shrink types talk about it when we do research. How do you operationally define somebody who has a higher level of spontaneity than another person? We all use those terms. Oh, he's such a spontaneous guy. Yeah, okay, so what do you mean by that? And where is he spontaneous? And who is he spontaneous with? And what kind of spontaneous? Does he shoot off his mouth before he thinks? Or is he just a crazy kind of guy who you can't predict how he's going to act? But you can't predict how he's going to act in some situations, not all situations. That's the problem. So on one hand, to reiterate, to enhance my sense of love and belonging, my sense of connection, which is the third one in his hierarchy of needs, which I missed at trivia, and everybody made fun of me because they all said, look, Ray, psychology. All right, we got that one. Okay, let's bet our highest number on that one because we got a psychologist here. And it came up, and I went, okay, oh, shoot. I got to go to the bathroom. Now, I did get the most recent one where they said Sigmund Freud identified our psyche as composed of the superego, the ego, and I got that one, the id, the cauldron of the passions, as Freud defined it, and those were made up primarily of aggression and sexuality. And I think what Freud didn't realize is what we realize now, is that much of his theory was in the context of when he lived in Austria and the various cultural trends and phenomena of then. And that's always something that's got to be taken into account, as it is, for example, with the whole transgender thing right now. There's a lot of cultural factors involved that we have yet to really take into account. 877-573-7825. Want to hear from you. It's bottom of the hour now, and we do have lines open. So you call in, we'll get you in. Thank you for calling. I'm Dr. Ray.
The following program is brought to you in part by MyCatholicWill.com. Surveys show that more than half of Americans do not have a will. At MyCatholicWill.com, it takes as little as 15 minutes to write your will and secure a legacy of faith. MyCatholicWill.com is the exclusive online destination for creating a Catholic will. The process of writing a will is simple and now more accessible than ever. MyCatholicWill.com, a legacy of faith for those you love.
Christ is the answer, with Father John Riccardo.
I tell oftentimes an experience that I had at Divine Child when I was a young priest, 1 year ordained. First time I ever really saw the power of the Blessed Sacrament. And we simply exposed the Blessed Sacrament at the end of Mass one night. I encouraged people. I said, you know what, we've been in the habit of praying over people after Mass. I said, we're not going to do that this week. I'm just going to invite people to come on up and pray if they want to pray. And I put the Blessed Sacrament on the altar. I kneel down. As I kneel down, the church is in the sanctuary. The whole church. And as I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the people there, and I'm looking at Jesus under the appearance of bread there, I saw the Lord standing on the altar. And he's just standing there looking out at all the people. And then at a certain point, he turned towards me, and he just bowed. And he says, don't you see how easy this is? You don't have to do anything. You just have to put me out. You put me out, and I will work.
He is only one of 4 popes honored as the Great.
Matthew Bunsen and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Leo I was pope at a time when Roman civilization was being overrun by barbarian armies. He stood as a light in the darkness and even saved the city of Rome from destruction by Attila and the Huns. Leo died in 461.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. I'm Dr. Ray Guarendi. I did mention that I was going to start publicizing our tapings of Living Right with Dr. Ray, the EWTN TV show. We had already set up being in Ann Arbor next week, the 28th and 29th. The shows are 5:30 and 7:15. And you go to AveMariaRadio.net, you can sign up. However, we also, and it's really tough to do them this close back to back, but that's the way the schedule worked out. Washington, D.C., Catholic University of America. Wonderful place, very much seeking its Catholic identity. We will be taping 4 more episodes there at the Catholic University of America. If you'd like to be part of it, that's November 11th and 12th. Same thing, 5:30, 7:15 times. As I said, the audience is absolutely critical to the show. The bigger the audience, I think the better the show. It just works out that way. If there's only 3 of you, you're going to have to just keep moving around to look like there's a whole bunch of you. One time we actually had life-size stuffed animals put in the front row. Yeah, make it look like it was filled up. It was, but we just thought it would be nice to have the stuffed animals in the front row. Go to my website, drray.com, drray.com, and I'm informed that the sign-up link is there. There's a little advertisement there of what's going on, and you click on the link, and it'll take you straight to the sign-up sheet put up by the Catholic University of America in D.C., Washington, D.C. That's 2 days, November 11th and 12th, 5:30, 7:15. We'd love to have you there. We have a wonderful Guadalupe affiliate there, WMET, and they are also putting up some great stuff. All right. When I first started at the Mental Health Center in Lisbon, Ohio, it didn't take me long to see that parents were skittish. They were nervous. The good parents now. The bad parents didn't really care how they raised their kids. But the better parents, the parents trying hard, were skittish. They second-guessed. They wondered if they were psychologically correct. And I thought, something is really, really confusing parents. What's going on? Now, at that time, the tsunami of experts was really gaining momentum. Yeah, they were everywhere. I mean, the experts. We've never had experts. We had people you knew, loved, and trusted in your family, but the experts with all their psychological theories and their enlightenment. Now, they can be helpful. There's no question about that. They can be helpful. But you as the parent must make the final judgment on what works in your home with your child and your moral value system. An awful lot of what experts are going to tell you would not at all jive with your most deepest held values and would probably collide with them. So listen to this one. Now, this is in a very, very popular, high-profile, high-circulation magazine. And the woman who's answering this is, she's called an educator, regularly working with kids, parents, and schools on peer pressure, bullying prevention, and media literacy. All right, an educator, whatever that might mean. My 16-year-old son was dumped by his, quote, in-crowd friends when he and his girlfriend broke up. Now he's hanging out with guys who smoke pot and drink. He says he doesn't participate. How can I keep these people from bringing my son down? Now, keep in mind here, the question says the kid's in with a bad crowd. But he's saying, well, you know, I don't participate. Yeah, well, who drives? What kind of peer pressure is there going to be to participate? Natural, logical, parental protection questions. Here's the answer. Now, this could take me the whole show to respond to this. She says, I want you, she's talking to mom now, to take a step back and see his position. All right? You got to understand this now. He wants to hang around with the guys who smoke pot and drink. That's his position. He's feeling lonely and rejected. His girlfriend is gone from his life, and his friends chose her over him. Now, there's nothing in the question that says that. It just says when he and his girlfriend broke up. It didn't say she broke up with him. They broke up. Who broke up with who? And maybe he's hanging out with the guys who smoke pot and drink because she didn't like kind of the angle that he was headed. There's nothing in this question that says that. But the immediate assumption is mom is mishandling this. His girlfriend is gone from his life. And his friends chose her over him. Well, how is that? Because he was dumped by his in-crowd friends? Maybe he was dumped because of who he is. Your son wants a group to hang out with. Okay, there you go. See, that's kind of like the old, I read Playboy for the interviews. He just wants to be around kids. So keep in mind, just because these kids are really, really bad and dangerous influences, he just needs a gang to hang out with. Anybody would in his place. See that? So anybody would be attracted to these guys in his place if it's a gang he can hang out with. So, now here's where she kind of touches upon allowing mom to be a parent. Remind him of your expectations regarding his behavior. Now, I got to believe that the kid being 16, knows what his mom's expectations are unless she's been quiet all these years. So basically, what mom is supposed to say, well, I know that you're hanging out with the guys who smoke and drink, probably drive, but just my expectations are that you not do that, okay? Then tell him, this is where I just drop off the cliff. Then tell him that he has the right to spend time with whomever he wants. Well, there you go. Smoke pot, drinking, and, hey, maybe harder drugs. He has the right to spend time with whomever he wants. Mom, don't interfere. Now, this is the kind of advice that parents are getting. And this woman is held out as an expert. No wonder the parents are going, wow, I'm way off. I really just didn't want him to hang around with kids that are bad for his life and his soul. Ooh, I better rethink it. But, she gives a big but here, if he runs into difficulties, he must talk to you or to another adult you both trust. Wait a minute. I'm going to tell him that hanging around with this crowd, if you run into real problems, you got to talk to me about them. Oh, okay, Mom, I will. I don't know what world this lady is raising kids or talking about kids in. I'll get more of it on the other side. Try to get to your questions also. I'd like to hear from you. 877-573-7825. 877-57-EQUAL.
"60 Seconds with Father Mitch Pacwa."
This communion with Jesus and with one another, that being united to him and abiding in him, that is the indispensable condition for bearing fruit. That's why our Lord says, back in John 15, verse 5, apart from me, you can do nothing. If you're not united to Christ, you're not going to do anything for him. So communion with Jesus, our Savior, focusing on him and getting to know him and be known by him, that is what makes it possible for us to bear fruit as Christians. And communion with others is the most magnificent fruit that the branches can give. That's one of the things that he's looking for from us, that we have a communion with one another, that we have a love and a concern. Does it mean we agree with one another? Not necessarily.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
What is wrong with artificial birth control? The Catholic Catechism explains that it unnaturally breaks the bond between the two essential elements of the conjugal act, the unitive and the procreative. The unitive element is the mutual self-giving of the spouses to one another. The procreative element is the openness to the act's potential and natural end, life. The truth of marital love is falsified when we separate what God has decreed as inherent and inseparable to the marriage act. We don't unnaturally separate eating from its natural end, nourishment. When we wish to control our weight, we abstain from food. Thus, if for just reasons we wish to control birth during a fertile period, we should abstain from sexual relations. In an age of ecological awareness, church-approved natural family planning, which is both healthy and free, is cause for environmental applause. This is Peggy Stanton, and this has been the Order of Malta's Minute with the Catechism.
It's Dr. Ray Guarendi here, the doctor's in. In case you weren't with me prior to the break, this was a question received by a supposed expert or a person who they call an expert about a situation with a 16-year-old dumped by his in-crowd friends when he and his girlfriend broke up. Now he's hanging around with a bad crowd. They smoke pot and they drink, but he doesn't participate. You know, I would say that this is going to be a rough estimate that 1.2359% of kids who hang around with a crowd who does a lot of bad things don't participate, at least in some of them. So anyway, the first part of this was kind of scolding Mom, telling her to step back, let the kid hang around with who he wants to hang around with. That's right. He says here, tell your son that he has the right to spend time with whomever he wants. There you go. So, Mom, these guys love cocaine and fentanyl, but I have a right to spend time. And if I run into difficulties, and here Mom puts down a strong line according to this expert, he's supposed to tell you. There you go. Again, my rough estimate is 2.65934% of kids who want to hang around with a bad crowd are going to tell the parents what the bad crowd does. Oh, my gosh. See, this is a struggle I have with so many so-called experts. assume things about the human condition that are wrong at their very base. And then once you make the wrong assumption about human nature, every conclusion you draw because of it runs a risk of being way off. All right. So, if he runs into difficulties, he must talk to you or another adult. That's right. You both trust. So see, therefore, he might not want to talk to mom. But he talked to another adult. Okay. Then she goes on. I haven't even addressed the assumption you made about his former crowd not drinking or doing drugs. Okay, now I agree with her on that one. That's true. I have no idea that the in crowd in many, many high schools are just as profligate in so many ways regarding sexuality, regarding drinking, regarding drugs, as anybody. That's sadly true. All right. So, yeah, I'm agreeing with her on that one. So we don't know exactly who he was hanging with to begin with. But it's interesting, though. Isn't it interesting? The assumption is that he latched onto this smoking pot and drinking group as a second choice because his first choice didn't want to have too much to do with him anymore. So the question could also be asked, why didn't they? What was it about him, perhaps, that they just decided no? Because the expert here is assuming that he got booted out of this in-crowd group because he broke up with his girlfriend and they like his girlfriend but they don't like him. It gets better. Suffice it to say, I'd ask your son about that first, meaning how was he so sure they weren't drinking and doing drugs as an in-crowd? Him being so certain about which kids are a bad influence. Maybe he doesn't even care which kids are a bad influence. Obviously, he's hanging around with a crowd who smokes and drinks and who does what else. And it's not a matter of, gee, maybe I shouldn't hang around with them because they're a bad influence. No, he wants to hang around with them. He's hanging around with them. That's a safe assumption. I remember an individual I have a lot of respect for regarding adolescence, and he said one of the main things that redirects an adolescent is getting him away from that peer group. He says sometimes just moving when you have to alters everything. She concludes, you may find that the original group stepped outside the lines just as much as this one does. Okay, that can be true. But the question then becomes, how do you know this? How will you find that out? Is he going to tell you? Is he going to say, yeah, Mom, the in-crowd, they did all that stuff too. Oh, there you go, Mom. See, Mom, I hang around with all kinds of bad crowds, and see, I'm okay. I get good grades. There's just so much in this that strips a parent of authority, of protection, of resolve. It puts so much power in the hands of the child and says, okay, Mom, back off. Leave him alone. And if he gets in any trouble, he's got to tell you. Well, interestingly enough, I guess that would be after the fact, wouldn't it? He got into the trouble. Would she tell him, well, remember now, if they're drinking, don't get in a car with them, and trust that that's the kind of judgment he'll have at age 16? Oh, gosh. If I'm the parent here and I know some of the habits of this crowd, you're not going near them. You're not going near them. One of my main duties as a parent is to protect. And oftentimes that means to protect you from your impulses, to protect you from your bad judgment, to protect you from your natural immaturity, to protect you from your inability to see more than 2 feet in front of your nose. I can't tell you how many parents will read something like this, and it will confuse them. And they will try to do it, only to have it blow up in their face and hurt their son a lot worse. But yet this is so much the kind of stuff that's out there. And I think to myself, how do we drift so far from what used to be kind of shared common sense, shared understanding? My grandfather, who raised my dad, came from Italy when he was 17. If he were told something like this, Papa would have just looked at the person and said, "What?" In his broken English, "That's my son. He's not going to go with those people. That's not going to be." And he would look at this person like, what kind of advice is this? His 6th grade education had enough sense to say, "What are you talking about? Allowing him to choose who he hangs with? Yeah, he can, as long as they're not a danger to his health and well-being and moral well-being. But when they are, that's when I, as the parent, step in." Okay, I got to take a break. This is Dr. Ray. Thank you for being with me.
CMF Curo is a Catholic healthcare ministry providing families nationwide with a better solution centered around whole health, spirit, mind, and body. Our members share their medical burdens within a faith-filled community. At CMF Curo, our members have access to a spiritual director, concierge services, and other health and spiritual resources. Find out if CMF Curo is a better solution for your family. Visit mycatholichealthcare.com. That's mycatholichealthcare.com.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically owned shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Maybe you've been hearing a lot about the need to make a spiritual communion while participating from home in a live-streamed or broadcast Mass. Maybe you've even prayed the prayer of spiritual communion. Spiritual communion is a concept that goes all the way back to the 4th century. It flourished in the Eastern Church and gradually moved west. Spiritual communion stresses the transcendence of God, where we unite our desires, intentions, and loves with the holy sacrifice of the Mass and the consecration of the Eucharist at the altar. Jesus, I embrace you and unite myself wholly to you.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
An elderly gentleman had serious hearing problems for a number of years. Going to the doctor was able to have him fitted for a new set of hearing aids and allowed him to hear perfectly well. Month later, man goes back to the doctor. Doctor says, "Your hearing is great. Your family must be really pleased that you can hear again." The gentleman replies, "No, I haven't told my family yet. I just sit around and listen to the conversations. I've changed my will 3 times. Yeah, my mom was like that. She had the will for me and my 3 siblings on a dry erase board in the kitchen. So we had to watch exactly what we said, or if we argued, or if she offered us bread and we refused it. And she'd go over and she'd just kind of erase it with a little rag. And then you had to fight to get back on it. Not true, not true. All right, one more question here. This is from C.S. Lewis. He wrote, The Problem of Pain. I willingly believe that the damned are, in one sense, successful. Rebels to the end. That the doors of hell are locked on the inside. Recall that picture of our Lord trying to get into a home, and there's no outside door latch. It has to be open from the inside to let him in. The argument that how can a good God consign people to hell? And one of the theological arguments to that is he doesn't. The people decide they don't want anything to do with him. I heard a great analogy. God is a consuming, loving fire. However, the exact same love can be accepted or resisted. And the analogy was drawn of a 3-year-old throwing a meltdown. If the parent tries to hug the 3-year-old during a meltdown, it is taken badly. It is taken as constriction. It is unpleasant. It's the parent hugging, trying to console the child, and the child wants no part of it. Child gets worse. However, if the same child falls down and hurts himself, and the parent picks the child up and consoles, the child loves it and is comforted. Both demonstrations on the part of the parent are the same. Holding and consolation. Both are the same. One is accepted and loved and embraced. The other, fought, resisted, rejected, and made matter. And I think that's what Lewis is saying. He said, okay, I don't want anything to do with you. And if you approach me, I still don't want anything to do with it. I had a friend once, and she was dying. She knew she was dying. And I asked her, do you think about God now? And she said, no. She said, I haven't thought about him all my life, and I'm not going to start thinking about him now. She viewed it as a cover her butt kind of contrition. And I wanted to say to her, but that's okay. That's a first step. That's good. Even if your contrition is a bit of self-interest, that's a nice first step. Go for it. But she wouldn't do it. Her attitude was, this is how I lived. This is how I'll die. I don't know where she is. I have no way of knowing what all entered into her long-time neglect and rejection of God. I don't know. I was very close to her. I knew her very well. But as she aged and she got to that point, she was adamant. Her view was, this is who I am. This is the decision I've made. So as C.S. Lewis says, in one sense, she was a rebel to the end. She locked God out. He was waiting, but she didn't invite him in. I wonder how many people are like that until the actual day of their death. That for whatever the reason, mostly because it's probably ingrained habit, that they don't think about what's coming up next, if anything. Maybe they have some kind of perverse comfort in the idea that, well, it's just be a a long-standing unconsciousness, that's all. So I go on to bed at night, only this time you don't wake up. Perhaps. But perhaps it's, I don't know what's on the other side, and I'm going to see. I've been so fascinated by all that as a psychologist. Someday I'd like to interview all kinds of people in those situations. Make for a great book, wouldn't it? Just thought about that. Maybe it would. Well, walk with God. Don't be a rebel to the end. Walk with God. He'll take your hand if you hold it out. I'm Dr. Ray. Thanks for joining me.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.